Good Friday evening, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Great Friday. We got a lot to go over in this evening's video. This is a now thing for a lot of these people, uh, almost including myself here in the upstate of South Carolina. We've got a matter of hours until this event starts. So this video is going to look a little bit different, but we got a lot of the same components. We're going to look over some observed information, and then we're also going to look into some model data and expected snowfall graphics, among other things. So like this video if you like it, subscribe if you've not done so already, and please leave a comment where you're watching from. It'd be greatly appreciated. So this is the last hour of observations here, and note that not all of this is hitting the ground. For example, I know for a fact, because I just checked the radar, that little like snow shower approaching Charlotte is probably not hitting the ground, but this area down here is a little bit more aggressive than modeled initially. We have a lot more moisture down here, so we need to watch that. As soon as it gets cold enough, it will start snowing. It is 37 degrees at my house. It's actually gone up a degree or so. It'll fluctuate, but it is dropping relatively quickly with time here. But I mean, please let me know what you're seeing if you live, and mostly in this circle here. I mean, there have been snow showers ongoing for several hours now. Not all of this is hitting the ground though. So that's the latest. We'll probably come back to this at the end of the video. So here is the latest from the National Weather Service. Their watches, warnings, and advisories map. Anywhere that has a pink or purple color to it, these are winter storm warnings. And you might see these purple ones and you're like, what's those? That is just the winter storm warnings with these extreme cold warnings layered underneath them, so they're darker. That's how they show up on this, on weather-wise here. But very large area of winter storm warnings and extreme cold warnings as well. They've issued these relatively recently. But yeah, most of the area in Georgia, the Carolinas here is several inches of snow expected, maybe up to half a foot. Then more north you go, and gusty winds. And now I mentioned this in this morning's video. I'll mention it again. Do you see this line that's kind of moving here? It says a shelter in place warning. There's little information in here. There's not a whole lot except this. They're announcing a state of emergency for the upcoming winter storm, and it expires in an hour. I don't exactly know why they've issued it like this, but they might extend it or issue a different one. I'm not sure. But that is one of the higher criteria warnings we have right now. No blizzard warnings have been issued, but we might see that change overnight for areas of primarily eastern North Carolina and maybe extreme southeastern Virginia here. So that is the latest with that. We might come back to this at the end of the video as well. And then we're going to get into here. This is our satellite loop. The past hour or two of satellite. This is upper level tropospheric water vapor. So this is typically above 500 millibars, several miles straight up in the sky. Do you see this feature kind of diving down right here? That is the energy. There is some sort of low pressure. It is diving like this. Continue to do so with time, but we use this level to kind of determine where it is. And you see down here, these clouds are kind of moving off to the east relatively quickly. It's because our southern jet is pretty active here. And you can see our jet stream kind of comes down like this and it goes over here. So we have some sort of troughing, digging down in areas. This is observed. This is not modeled. So we do in fact have our players on the field already. And this is really it's just starting in areas here. So how about our upper level pattern as observed from the National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center? Well, they've got a low pressure right here. This is still 500 millibars. This is the wind at that layer. You can see the orientation of it going like this. It is, as of now, strongly positively tilted. When it looks like this, it's positive. If it was digging, say, like this, it would be neutral. And if it was digging like this, it'd be negative. You want it to be negative, that's a stronger storm system. But we are seeing this here, this little area down here of enhanced winds is the jet streak. It is quickly pivoting off to the east and south with time. And yeah, so that's just trying to lay some ground truth down, getting some real logic in here, just trying to understand the pattern. So there is that. Now, here's where we go over all of our model guidance. So we're going to start off with global model guidance like normal, the GFS, the Euro, and a version of the Canadian, then look at our short range stuff. So this is the 18Z. We do have it, and this is just after midnight tonight. Do you see that band in eastern South Carolina, southern areas of North Carolina? That could well get going here, and you saw that moisture on the loop I first showed you when this video started, and that will turn into snow. But based on our observed loop here, it's a little stronger than it was anticipated necessarily. So this could really overachieve and drop 1 to 2, maybe several inches of snow wherever it sets up before the event really even gets going. But Southern Appalachian's getting in on this. We take it out here. This is getting into about 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll do some drawing here. So obviously a relatively large area of snow has developed here, getting all the way maybe into Huntsville, Alabama. When it comes to western extent, you can see our surface low up here. You see our surface low. I think I said surface, upper level low, surface low. And wherever these pieces of energy transfer will be very important as to figuring out where our dry slot is. So for those of you who don't know what that is, that's just an area where when these areas of energy, a low right here and a low right here, when they transfer their energy from one to the other, a gap, a glitch, if you will, appears between them, and that can really cut down on some totals that we will see that in our model guidance here in a minute. But anyway, this is only Saturday morning. We take this on a little bit more, and this is Saturday afternoon. This would be right about 1 p.m., just after lunchtime. You can see this area right here, this dry area. It's called a dry slot. And our coastal low is getting going here, throwing moisture back into cold air. Our surface low is somewhere up in here with energy diving across. So it's bringing Gulf moisture up into this very cold air at the surface. I might pull it up in later. I doubt I will. I'll just go ahead and tell you, you can just take my word for the fact that across most of these areas, by the time this really gets going, say, Saturday afternoon, almost all of the areas you see outlined in blue, even areas that aren't in the middle here, will be in the teens or 20s for temperatures. So no mixing issues there. Not even a little bit. Move this on. That dry slot fills in. And yeah, the areas of snow that are the highest rates, the heaviest snow is really setting up over eastern North Carolina here. It's still snowing back here in the upstate of South Carolina and the southern Appalachians, getting into tomorrow evening, about 7 or 8 p.m. And this low really gets going. This frame here is concerning, and that is because of this wind that it would have packing here. This is that's a dangerous look for the Outer Banks. This is why I likely think they have shelter in place warnings issued. They will likely extend if unless I don't have that right. This is just not a good look for the Outer Banks. Very windy, blowing snow, and the Outer Banks is on its last legs when it comes to the structures of beach erosion. This last hurricane season was rough for you guys, and the season before was not great either. So there's that. Not to get too caught up with that. That is just one aspect of it. It's a very high impact sort of system here, and it moves on up the coast and does very little for anyone else but Atlantic Canada. So we're not even going to move up there. I'll show you the National Weather Service graphics for that area, but very, very little. So what about the GFS model? Starting off again just after midnight here, there's that band of snow and rain in the northern Midlands of South Carolina, getting into maybe the sand hills of North Carolina. Definitely could get some totals accumulated on the ground before this event really even gets going, but southern Appalachians, and it spreads south quickly in just 6 hours. The GFS is still holding out. Atlanta not getting a whole lot, and it's been consistent with that over the past several runs. This was the run before. The last 3 runs have looked identical. 4 runs actually have looked almost exactly the same. Very consistent GFS for the first time in forever. we get some of that. Saturday afternoon, areas of heavy snow in northern Georgia, upstate. Well, really the northern most part of South Carolina receiving snow. Every county except the really far southern coastal areas of North Carolina receiving snow, and that does change. But there's that dry slot. Its exact location still can't be pinpointed, and I hate to say it, there will be no way to pinpoint where this thing actually sets up until we are in tomorrow morning and we're watching this unfold in real time, that's what radar is for. We can't model this. And that's why when we go over our snowfall graphics, I'm going to explain this a little bit more. But it's a pretty similar look with the Outer Banks. Look at that, really, really heavy snow and 974 low. What does the GFS say for wind? It's a little further offshore, so this is a better scenario. But you know, any further western tick, or the GFS is just a little bit too far east with this, and it's a different story, but still very windy conditions nonetheless. Moves offshore and doesn't do anything for the northern areas except for maybe a little bit in Cape Cod. Same with the GFS. Same with the Euro. So there is some agreement there. So what about the short range version of the Canadian model? This is the 18Z run. These are all 18Z runs. We got lucky with that. There's that band of snow in the eastern areas of the Carolinas. Watch that. Just pay attention to it. Monitor your radar. If you're like me, you're going to be up many more hours tonight watching this unfold. I'm a weather nerd. I wouldn't hesitate to say it, and this is my passion. So I'm going to be up. I know there'll be plenty of you who do the same. This is getting into Saturday morning, and it's a similar story to the the Euro. I got to get my words right, guys. It's getting snow all the way over near Huntsville again. So again, last several runs of this have looked very similar. Almost identical. So maybe a very, very ever so slight northern tick, but like less than 20 miles. Negligible here. Spread south, and yeah, it gets going. Classic snowstorm. We'll go over the surface trough and other little features with our short range model guidance, like the HRRR here in a second. But anywhere that it dry slots initially, it does fill in with heavy snow. And let's take this frame here. We'll look at what this shows for wind as well. And yeah, so this is likely one of the reasons they have not issued blizzard warnings, is because there is some inconsistency when it comes to the strength and track of this low initially. See how that's a 980 millibar low? That's the equivalent of a Cat 1 or Cat 2 hurricane. So that is pretty strong, but if it's just a little bit further offshore, it doesn't do a whole lot. But very windy conditions, definitely blowing snow, and it moves on up the coast, doesn't do much of anything for anyone else. So what about our short range models? We're going to start off with the HRRR. I think that's the king of our short range model guidance. So here we go. I'm going to switch this to Eastern time. For those of you, I don't really ever mention this, but our time frame for this model is down here. I just switched it to Eastern time, and see where it says valid. So this will be 1 a.m. So if I will forget to mention time, so just look there. But anyway, so we get. Oh, I forgot about that. I have to click back on this here. Here we go. It's 1, 2, 3 a.m. Starting to get some snow showers in the northern areas of South Carolina. You look in the eastern areas, and there's that snow like banding feature. Very heavy rates. So again, if you manage to get under that, then consider yourself lucky. You might get several inches. And the HRRR is very intense initially in the northern areas of South Carolina, the Greenville-Spartanburg area. These areas of snow are very, very heavy, very intense. And it gets snow over near Huntsville. And, not into Birmingham, but Atlanta getting in on this. Gainesville, Athens, down to Columbia at this point. And, you notice this kind of area between Macon and Columbia where it kind of arches a little bit. Kind of goes like this. That's a dry slot as well, but it fills in. Now, the HRRR does not like this area nearly as much as some of the other guidance does. It is very aggressive with a dry slot that doesn't really ever significantly fill in. And remember how I said surface trough? I'm going to dive into this a little bit. So you see, it should draw your eyes pretty quickly. That thing right there, that is called a mesoscale low, a meso low, or a surface trough, whatever you'd like to call it, does not matter to me. There are mountains in this area. There's essentially a roadblock. So our air comes down and kind of stops. Down here, it does not hesitate. So you can kind of already see there's a difference between these wind vectors I just drew in. Consequently, we get some sort of spin to happen in these areas. And where that sets up will be important. Again, no real way to forecast this, but between Atlanta and the Savannah River, somewhere in there likely will be a band of snow that sets up along the periphery of this surface trough and could locally drop a lot of snow And you see that thing move down the, I mean, look at that thing. And depending, if you get under this, consider yourself lucky again. But look at that dry slot, the Raleigh-Durham area. It does fill in, but not with heavy snow for very long. And the HRRR does keep the Outer Banks with very, very heavy rain for longer. Look at that low, guys. You see that? It moves offshore, and then, it looks like a hurricane because it's the equivalent of one. But there's one last broad look. Areas of North Carolina didn't really cover. We'll go over you guys here. So this is Saturday afternoon, dry slot for sure, except for the eastern areas and the far western, far eastern areas. It kind of fills in and gets Virginia Beach, Norfolk area pretty good. Gets almost nothing up to Richmond. So keep that in mind if you're in Richmond. There are solutions that show nothing. And there's the HRRR model. How about the RRFSA model? There's some snow between Columbia and Wilmington somewhere. And it intensifies, but as it gets over into North Carolina more. Snow showers. This is, I'll switch this to Eastern time as well. 4 a.m. I mean, you see snow showers here. And the RRFSA is similar. It initializes very heavy snow between Gainesville and Charlotte, Asheville, the Greenville-Spartanburg area, even down to Atlanta. The RRFSA is not as much of a bully as it once was, although it's more like flurries, not really anything too intense. But yeah, you see these areas of very heavy snow. See this mixing? The HRRR showed this too. I don't know if we'll get this. It might be too cold for this. And look at that dry slot, guys. This is a mean dry slot. Be very wary. I'm going to circle an area. If you are mainly right in here or right in here, either of those, please be mentally prepared. I know you guys are set. You think you're set for a big snow. Your floor for this event is really low, as in you have the potential to do nothing. You have a high potential of going boom, where you get a lot of snow, many inches, a foot of snow. But you have the highest chance out of all of us to completely bust. You completely whiff. And that's possible. So please mentally prepare for that and don't take your anger out on people like me or your local meteorologist, because this is going to be a difficult one to figure out. That is aggressive. Now, does it fill in? The RRFSA says yes, but again, it does drop the totals a little bit. But I mean, areas, Greenville, North Carolina. I mean, I could name city. You can see it here. I don't need to name places. Hopefully you know where you are on a map. And if you don't, pull out your phone, pull out your computer, whatever. Go open Google Maps, and it should auto-center itself on you if you have location permissions turned on. It's a map. You should have those turned on for a map. And then it'll tell you. And then you can zoom out and look for major cities near you. There's that surface trough. Look at that, between Athens, Asheville, down to the coastal areas of Georgia. I mean, look at that thing. Really gets going. So, and it moves offshore. So, yeah, pretty similar solution, except Virginia Beach is kind of whiffed a little bit. So the RRFSA is more of a South Carolina, Eastern Georgia, and northern or southern areas of North Carolina special here. Moves on up the coast. How about the NAM? The NAM has been consistent the last couple of runs in showing very heavy snow initially. Look at some of these values, guys. Not to be overly specific, 34 decibels of snow is very heavy snow. Obviously, you can see the color scale up here goes from 5 to 7. You might be thinking, well, 40 is not. 70 decibels of snow is insane. 70 decibels of rain typically equals hail. So, yeah, that's, anyway, not to get too caught up in that. Look at the NAM, Birmingham, Huntsville, Tuscaloosa, even down, maybe areas of near Montgomery could see some snow showers here. Yeah, Montgomery getting on this. Atlanta, you're well within this. Gainesville, Athens, and then there is some sort of surface trough, but it keeps a lot of these values pretty high. Look at that dry slot, guys. I hate to see that. I really do. And this is another model that kind of whiffs Virginia Beach. We have family in that area. The Raleigh-Durham area is also like completely untouched as it moves off. And even eastern areas of North Carolina in general, Greenville, Jacksonville, Elizabeth City, obviously the Outer Banks, are kind of, you're not left entirely alone, but you might be thinking, what kind of event is this for us? And I agree with you. The NAM is not necessarily right, but it's also not necessarily wrong. That's what I hate to say. So, snowfall graphics. I'll go over these really briefly. This is The Euro, we don't have the 18Z on this site. It just it lags behind a lot, and I don't have another good way to show it to you. But I'm pretty sure the 18Z was similar. Keeps the highest totals here and right here. Those are probably the two worst. That's probably the worst color I could have picked. Uh, here, here, and here. There's like 3 areas. But to name locations based off of the Euro, the entire Greenville-Spartanburg area is good for at least 6 inches based off of this. Excuse me. Down to Columbia, you got over 7 inches, nearly 8. This maximum here between Goldsboro, Greenville, Rocky Mount, Kinston, Wilson, you've got, up near 10 inches. Now, this right here, this is what I want you to focus on. You see this area blue inland here? Let me show you the run before this. Even drier. The run before that was kind of similar. So you have a dry slot, but it does give you guys something. You're not, even if you get dry slot, it doesn't mean you get nothing. Gets Virginia Beach into some notable snow. Richmond up here, you're on a line. So you're on a line where you definitely could get some, but your range values are pretty intense of a range. We'll look at that in a second. Inch to several inches in Atlanta, still being modeled off the Euro, and this is old reliable. And then between Greenville and Charlotte, we have some sort of maximum of 10 inches or so. I could see that happening. I really could. Between these two areas, Greer, Spartanburg, it doesn't say Greenville for whatever reason, but Greenville's right here where all these roads connect. And then Charlotte, even up to Hickory. Now you start to merge with the upper level and then higher elevation energy, but this right here between Spartanburg and Gastonia on this run gets 11 inches. I could see that. They're not calling for that. I think that's sane of them not to call for it, but they're not. Now, like the Euro does do a little something for Cape Cod, but it really doesn't like it. Not nearly as much. Let's say we'll go back a run, yeah, many more inches inland. And the run before that, kind of similar. So it's been pretty consistent, but the latest run, I'm pretty sure the latest run may have done even less than that. So yeah, and then obviously the Outer Banks is another little highlight area up near 10 inches. So latest Euro, GFS. This makes me happy because we have model consistency in my area, at least 6 inches showing up on both. The GFS really likes eastern areas of North Carolina and northeast areas of South Carolina. It has consistently. And then obviously it likes the Smokies because it's higher elevated. But I mean, it gets appreciable totals. The footprint is mostly the same. You can see that this footprint here is almost the same on all of them. Now, areas of Virginia where you're kind of on the edge, Richmond, you get something. The Hampton Roads area, Chesapeake, the Chesapeake Bay, you definitely get something. This is one of the higher end scenarios, I think. Blacksburg, Lynchburg, you're there. Danville, somewhere down here. I think it's right, like literally right where that 7.37 is. Obviously, you get that much. Down to Atlanta, not nearly as happy about that. The northern sides of town could get way more than the southern. So watch that. That's a close gradient, but I do think that we might spread this moisture a little bit further west than the GFS shows it here, and then go up the coast, Cape Cod with minimal to nothing at all, Maine with nothing, Atlantic Canada. You guys have been kind of a lock for this for days now. So there's that. Now, how about our short range stuff? This is the latest HRRR model. It is a full run. Yeah, okay. So this is the entire event. This is the 0Z. It's pretty fresh. So yeah, I don't need to touch that. So here we go. Widespread areas where it turns to this kind of purple color is like 6 inches or more. Widespread areas here, although notice north of Fayetteville, Raleigh, Durham, Wilson, Greenville, Sanford, Goldsboro. I mean, I could name cities forever. Henderson. Please watch this. Tune in as frequently as possible to your local meteorologist. People like me, I make videos all the time. Not all the time, but I make them relatively frequently. Mitch West, GM Weather, Gerald over at GM Weather runs a great channel as well. I think Chris Justice, that's our local meteorologist. He covers these areas too. Watch him. He does just watch. Keep your eyes peeled because again, your floor is next to nothing. Your floor is underground, as I like to say. And but I'm telling you, your ceiling's also so high. And then areas Jacksonville, New Bern, this is the second run now, 14 inches that's shown this. Virginia Beach is kind of on that area where you get a whole lot of nothing. Eastern areas of North Carolina with a lot, but this is not final. This is not set in stone. These values have moved. Atlanta with a solid 2 inches. The Greenville-Spartanburg area is good for at least 4 to as much as 6 to 8 inches in some areas. And then obviously you can see the higher elevated regions could well get 2 feet of snow in some areas. And then it goes up the coast, and Cape Cod is yeah, nothing. Atlantic Canada, this doesn't take it through the entire event for you guys, but you're going to get hit. I feel confident in saying that. So there's that. But watch that dry slot, guys. It's very aggressive. The RRFSA model, this should take us through most of the event. Yes, it does. So it's pretty similar in a lot of these areas. This is what I'm talking about. This surface trough and the band that it gets going, that is 7.3 inches north of, say, Madison, Georgia. That is not a forecast. Please don't take that as a forecast. But that's an example of how this could overachieve. And there's some totals for you. It really does dry slot northern areas north of Savannah Beaufort, south of Columbia. I mean, this is negligible. So, again, keep your eye on that. There's that Raleigh-Durham area, that dry slot. Although on these runs, no, I want to note this. The short-range models like the idea of dry slotting like a U. The global models like the idea of dry slotting like an N. So that's interesting to me. They kind of meet each other. I don't know why that is. I don't understand it really. You could dive deep into the science behind the models and probably figure it out, but just from a consumer standpoint, I don't understand. I'm not going to pretend to. Areas Cape Cod, nothing. I think you guys are kind of getting more set in stone that you're not going to get a whole lot. And then down, yeah, well, this is, I was done talking about that anyway. This is the 3 kilometer NAM. Let's take it out through the event. So again, pretty similar story. Charlotte down to Columbia, you're getting solid consistency here of 6 to 8 inches on almost all of these runs. Here's that drier southern area of South Carolina. I can see this. I don't know. I don't really know. And then it's a more aggressive area, but I mean, Raleigh-Durham, you don't get anything. I mean, it doesn't just dry slot you where you get a dusting. You get nothing. I don't know if that's a little aggressive in my book. In my opinion, that's not quite as much. I honestly don't think this is right at all. I think you're going to get way more than this. Eastern areas of North Carolina. It just doesn't get the moisture in the right place. It's a South Carolina and West Central North Carolina special. And then it does get notable snow in Atlanta. Even areas over Huntsville, several tenths, that's a dusting. That's enough to make the ground white. So that's that. So as far as I know, yeah, here's where we enter our expected snowfall graphics. We're going to make relatively quick work of this because it's pretty cut and dry. We'll do some drawing. I have these all set to range values. This was updated recently. You know what? I'm just going to do it. It might take me an additional 30 seconds on the video. Update all these just to make sure. So notice your range, 1/2 inch to 2 inches in Atlanta. I think that's a great forecast. I think they've nailed that. You could get as little as 1/2 inch. That's enough to make the ground white, and as much as 2 inches. I like that. And then mainly focus on Georgia. We'll move areas further north here in a minute. Up to Blairsville, 3 to 5. These are some pretty wide ranges. Rome, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Trenton, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Even area Huntsville, you're not included. I could see them tweaking this, but we're running out of time for that. Augusta, 2 to 4. Sandersville, 1 to 3. Macon, Trace to 1 inch. I can see you guys doing a little bit more than that. And then even down to Savannah. The Savannah Beaufort area, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Vidalia, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Pretty similar. And as you get into northeast Georgia, you're starting to get to those 3 to as much as 6 inches in some of these counties. So that's something to note. So that's all I'm going to show you there. Now, how about the Greenville-Spartanburg area? Again, I'm going to update this. I doubt there's a new update. Yeah, there's not. This is the same. So this is a lot of the same as earlier. I'm showing you guys this because I live like right here. So I lived like dead in the center of it, and I like to pay close attention. But 3 to as much as 8 inches showing up in the entire area here. Isn't that crazy? This is the southeast, guys. they may have ticked some of these down on a very local basis. They're adjusting these pretty frequently, but Columbia up to Charlotte, the I-77 corridor, good for a solid 6 inches based off of this. And Greenwood, Spartanburg, Newberry, Edgefield, 5 to 6 inches. And you see this gap. Our other short range guidance kind of shows this too. I don't really know what to make of that. I think it could well happen. I think this will be a little bit more splotchy than they're showing because these bands are exactly that. They're just bands of it. So you could well get between two bands and your totals are locally lower, and if you get under one, your totals are locally higher. These ranges, in fact, that's what I meant to pull up. Use the range map. So this is what I'm talking about. 3 to 5, 3 to 6 in Greenville, this is their expected range. Obviously, the ceiling of this goes higher than this. 5 to 8 in Charlotte, 4 to 6 in Columbia. That's a solid amount in Columbia. 5 to 7 in Newberry, 4 to 6 in Greenwood. Starts to drop off as you get south, but I think that these range values are pretty solid, and they haven't really moved over the past several updates. What about this graphic here? I'm going to reload it just to make sure. Same up, yeah. Can we do range values? Go. So these are going to be kind of hard to tell because this is such a zoomed out map here. I'm not going to do a draw. I'm just going to talk. These areas in North Carolina are very, very tricky. For example, 2 to 7 in Myrtle Beach. You might be thinking, dude, that's not a forecast. How do I make decisions based off of that? Because 2 inches is negligible. 7 inches is like, whoa. I know, and that's the dry slot effect, if you will. We're not gonna be able to figure this out. Fayetteville 5 to 10, Sanford 4 to 9, Raleigh 4 to 9. The Raleigh-Durham area in general is about 4 to 9 with your range. And you can see this area. I'm going to get this clutter off your screen just briefly. It still doesn't really help. You can see these areas in this dark orange. That's over 12 inches. Greenville, North Carolina is showing up in this. And then I'll go back to the range just briefly. Yeah, areas you see in this like muted shade of orange are at least 8 inches what they're calling for, but you see your ranges are so wide. Please don't get mad at your local people and people like me. There is no logical way to figure this out. There just isn't. Notice how it says 1 to 5 inches, like say Cape Hatteras. I don't know about that. I mean, you guys are going to start as rain as the surface low develops, but you could definitely get more than even 5 inches. So just watch for that. In fact, yes, 7 inches on the high end. I don't know about that. Might be a little low, but still. Wide ranges. Something to pay close attention to. I recommend you get a radar app. I have to recommend Radar Scope because I've used it so long. You don't have to pay but like $8 to own it. And you can pay the plus subscription, whatever. I do that, the tier 2, but I also use it to storm chase with, and I use those tools a lot. But you don't need them. You can use desktop apps on your computer, like WeatherWise offers those. What's it called? Radar Attic? Attic Radar? I think it's called Attic Radar is another like website. You can select individual towers. I recommend you do that. Watching this for your own is going to be the best thing to do as this event progresses because it's going to be impossible to figure out where this dry slot sets up. So moving up the coast, this is, I don't think they would have updated this, but it's possible. So yeah, it's the same. So Norfolk, for example, 2 to 8. Again, you're thinking, what kind of a forecast is that? 3 to 11 in Kitty Hawk, 4 to 10 in Elizabeth City, 4 to 12 in Windsor, 4 to 12, that's Greenville, I believe. I mean, that's a diabolical range. Trace to 2 inches in Richmond. I mean, I understand the frustration you may have. 1 to 6 in Cape Charles. I mean, listen, you guys are just too close to the edge to figure this out reasonably. I hate to say that when we're so close, but that's just the way it is. That's just how it's going to have to be. So there is that. Just pay close attention, watch the radar, stay tuned to your local people. They'll have you covered. I'll have you covered tomorrow morning as well if everything goes right. So there's that. Now, how about Cape Cod? I skipped New Jersey because it completely left you guys alone in the last update. It's going to update this, make sure. Of course, now it's going to lag. Range forecast. Here's why I'm showing you range. Half an inch to 6 inches in Nantucket. I mean, that's diabolical, isn't it? Half an inch to 4 inches Martha's Vineyard. Half an inch to 5 inches in Hyannis. Half an inch to 4 inches in Provincetown. Half an inch to 3 inches in Plymouth. Half an inch to 2 inches in New Bedford. That's the reason that the floor, the low end on these is so low is because there are several solutions that don't even give you any. And there are solutions that give you some. So I just watch. It'll become more apparent as time goes on, but it's going to be hard to figure out where this low goes. As it goes out to sea, we don't have any way to observe that other than satellite. And our model guidance is going to struggle for that reason. So, yeah, I hate to say that, but that's how it is. So here we are again. 1010 is the last update. Yeah, so this is recent. If you're in Charlotte, for example, let me know if you're seeing snow hit the ground. It's making its way up there. But yeah, this area is just working its way south, nearly to the South Carolina border now. In the Greensboro, Raleigh, Durham area, there's also some notable snow being shown up on the radar here, so it's possible that that's happening. I don't know. Along the Appalachians, we've been expecting this, and it is happening. So enjoy this snow; it'll continue for hours, and just stay tuned to your local people. Like I said, we go back to this. I'm going to reload it just to make sure. Let's actually hit the actual button. I doubt anything's going to be a whole lot different with this, but it's possible that it is. What's going on here? Well, I might just have to not do that. Is this turned off? It is. That would be why. Anyway, yeah, this actually shows up better because it's they're layered differently. So yeah, anywhere in pink is the winter storm warnings. That flashing stuff you see going on down there south of Elizabeth City is shelter in place warnings. Look at all of these warnings, guys. Oh my goodness. I mean, some areas of the Outer Banks, all of these are notable warnings. Winter storm warnings, high wind warnings, coastal flood, extreme cold, high surf, multiple different ones. You guys are just you're gonna get it. You're gonna get something. These red boxes out here are hurricane force wind warnings out of the continental shelf. It's pretty crazy, but it's very, very realistic. So there is that as a broader look. So yeah, this is a real thing, guys. We are very close to this happening. 10:14 as the time I'm speaking, and that is my cue to stop yapping. So stay tuned to your local people. Stay safe, stay warm, and I will see you guys probably tomorrow morning.